Terry Downs in his fight with a fading Sugar Ray Robinson in London in 1962. Downs won in a 10-round decision. Popper photo, via Getty Images. Terry Downs, a quick-witted middleweight boxing champion from Britain, nicknamed the Paddington Express, who became wealthy outside the ring by investing in legal betting shops and later did a bit of acting, died on October 6 in Hertfordshire. He was 81. His wife, Barbara, said the cause was kidney failure. Downs, whose record was 359, was a thoroughly British fighter. He held the British middleweight championship twice and fought all but two of his bouts in Britain, including his defeats of a fading Sugar Ray Robinson and the Brooklyn-born one-time champion Joey Jardello in London. He had a comb-forward style and he didn't bother to duck too often, Barry Hearn, a Hall of Fame boxing promoter, said, in an interview. He was a crowd pleaser who, when he fought in London, was really popular and people were happy to get a ticket. Downs could take a punch, but his face, especially his nose, which he called his Parisian hooter, suffered for it. He was a bleeder who needed plastic surgery to remove scar tissue and 364 stitches overall to close the mini-cuts to his face. They're so tiny, they're almost invisible, his wife said. His tender nose began to spurt blood in the third round of his fight in Boston in early 1961 against the reigning world middleweight champion, Paul Pender, a firefighter from Brookline. He lost by a technical knockout in the 7th round. It looked as if he'd cracked my hooter with an axe, Downs told the Daily Mail in 2011. Pender, Downs said, had won by a nose. Downs won the title during their bruising rematch that July in London. But he was disappointed that it ended when Pender did not rise from his stool at the start of the 10th round. The fight wasn't going Pender's way, Downs said to the Daily Mail. And he wasn't daft. He jacked it in because he knew he had a return fight in Boston. He was getting beat and did not want to take a battering. Back in Boston the next year for the last fight of their trilogy, Pender reclaimed the middleweight belt in a 15-round slugfest. Downs faced Robinson, a 5-time world middleweight champion and one of the greatest fighters in history, in 1962, 5 months after losing the title to Pender. But by then Robinson was 41 and past his prime. I didn't beat Sugar Ray, Downs said after beating him in 10 rounds on points. I beat his ghost. Downs' up top 1962 video by British Paddy Down his fighting career competed with the increasing attention he received for his part ownership of betting shops with Sam Burns, his manager. The British government legalized betting shops nationwide in 1961, and within 2 years Downs said he had sold a share of his shops for $728,000, although he and Burns retained control of them. Later that year, Downs played down suggestions that he would retire to tend to the shops. I got to fight so I can sleep nights, mate, he said after ending a 6-month layoff by fighting Rudolph Nehring as a light heavyweight. I'm too young to go to seed, but I haven't slept properly since I stopped training. Now that I'm back in harness, I sleep like a baby. Barbara Windsor and Terry Downs in the 1965 Sherlock Holmes movie A Study in Terror. He acted on stage and television and in films after his boxing career. PhotoFest. Downs fought 3 more times. After knocking out Nehring, all as a light heavyweight. In his final fight, in late 1964, he faced Willie Pastrano, the world champion. Downs pressed Pastrano with his swarming style until Pastrano sent Downs to the canvas twice in the 11th round and the referee stopped the bout. Downs and Burns owned the betting shops until the early 1970s, when they sold them to the William Hill bookmaking chain. Terence Richard Downs was born in the Paddington neighbourhood of London on May 9, 1936. His father, Richard, was a mechanic, and his mother, the former Hilda Horwood, worked at a department store. His father taught him the basics of boxing, a skill he found useful in the streets. Every day of my life was a fight day, he told the Telegraph. You'd sock some kid on the nose and his big brother was round later to avenge the family name. He was having increasing success as an amateur, fighting for a local club, when his family left for Baltimore in 1952 to care for his sister, Sylvia, a trapeze artist who had lost her right arm in a traffic accident. During his 5 years in the United States, Downs fought at a local YMCA and joined the Marines, where he was among the 10 Eastern representatives scheduled to fight in the boxing trials for the 1956 Summer Olympics in Melbourne, Australia. Ultimately, he did not meet the residency requirement that would have allowed him to represent the United States. I was all right to be in the bloody Marine Corps, catching bullets in the front line, he told The Guardian, but with boxing gloves they said no, you can't represent us. He returned to Britain in 1957 and began his professional career with 2 quick victories. But he lost his 3rd fight on a 5th-round technical knockout to Dick Tiger, a future champion whose skills were greatly underestimated by the promoter. Afterward, Downs said he had wondered why he had been matched with the giant, but then I realized I was flat on my back looking up at him. In addition to his wife, the former Barbara Clark, he is survived by his sons, Terry Jr., Paul and Richard, his daughters, Melanie Cook and Wendy McNeill, 8 grandchildren, and his sister, Sylvia Hadaway. After his boxing career, Downs acted on stage, on television and in movies like A Study in Terror 1965, a Sherlock Holmes film, and Roman Polanski's 1967 horror comedy, The Fearless Vampire Killers, in which he portrayed the servant of Count von Krolik, a vampire played by Ferdy Mayne. Mr. Polanski spotted Downs being interviewed on television and was aware of his lack of acting experience. But something about Downs' face and physique led him to hire him to play the servant, Cowkle. Maybe he didn't like the look of me, Downs told the Daily Mail. He cast me as a bloody monster, a hunchback with a deformed face and a club foot.